Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, episode 105, and we are going to continue through Caelid in the off-screen. I farmed for the full Radon Knight set. I farmed partially for the Leyendell Knight Armor and the Radon Soldier set. I didn't know that you could actually farm the... I didn't think about it, actually, that the Leyendell Knight over here gives us, you know, we have a chance to farm him for items. So I was popping some of our Silver Pickles Foul Feet. And then for the Radon Knight and Soldier, there's just a group right over here. So I was just going back and forth. It took me quite a bit to get all this stuff, but I wanted to have their items for when it's relevant to talk about them. I'm not going to talk about them right now, because we're not going to go that way. When we go west, we'll talk about this armor. But one of the important things I wanted to bring up, based on the farming that I did, was the Leyendell Knight Armor. Armor worn by knights sworn to defend the royal capital of Leyendell. Its left breast is emblazoned with a symbol of Erd Tree worship, said to have once been imbued with an incantation of protection. So I'm just going to throw that on right now. We're not going to do a deep dive onto the Leyendell Knight Armor and things like that, but just this symbol represents Erd Tree worship, and that is relevant because the Golden Vow, that's the same sigil. So it makes me picture that the protection symbol was Golden Vow, which we have on this dagger, which I guess I could keep, which I could keep to continue the cast. This is also found on the, where do we have it? The Golden Halberd. So Erd Tree worship, not, which is distinct from these spells, which are Erd Tree incantations. So the Crucible spells and Blessings Boon, these are incantations that come from the Erd Tree. Something like Golden Vow is a incantation that comes from worshipping the Erd Tree. So there's a distinction there. We'll talk about the Radon armor in the future. I guess Golden Vow doesn't really last that long, so I don't need it on the hotbar. What else did we get that was interesting? Yeah, that was about it. Oh, another thing. Here was something that was interesting. So last episode, while we were in the Caelid ruins, and I was like, why are they dropping melted mushrooms? Oh, they must be dropping melted mushrooms to turn them into oil pots so they can use the flame chariots. Well, someone in the comments, I'll throw it on the screen. I don't remember the name of the user who posted this, but they said, well, they're melted mushrooms and they're all on fire, so obviously the mushrooms got melted. The mushrooms were melted, and they turned into, obviously, melted mushrooms. And that made me think, well, wait a minute. If these are melted mushrooms are just regular mushrooms that have melted, that could mean that any mushroom that we find in the lands between proper, not underground in Shifra, could potentially be a mimic mushroom. So we can't trust that any of the mushrooms that we find are legitimate mushrooms. They could be mimics. Oh, wait, is this an Arteria leaf? All right. These ones are hard to find. They look like herba. And I'm colorblind. I learned recently, apparently, Radigan's Red Wolf does not have a gold sword. It's a red sword, but it's kind of like red gold. All right, why is there... Are there more Arteria leaves here? I guess I should... Oh, gosh. Should I be marking Arteria leaves? I'm going to run out of markings. I'm just going to have to remember this is here. I'll ask Meta what he thinks. Arteria leaves. We think Radigan. What do we see? Crow, Dead Giant, Divine Tower, Caelid Ruins, Minor Erd Tree, Divine Tower, Dead Giant, Minor Erd Tree. Oh, wait, this is kind of parallel, actually. Dead Giant... Oh, no, it's not. The Minor Erd Tree is on the outside. All right. So we have a few things. We have this telescope, and then we have the finger reader. So we're going to do the telescope first. Caelid is such an interesting place, and this gives us a full look of Caelid. But I want to first start with where we came from. We can actually see pretty well most of Limgrave, and as I've mentioned previously, the destroyed ruins, the destroyed ruins of Farum Azula. You see them scattered all throughout Limgrave, but we don't see any in Caelid. But we see the Bestial Sanctum, which we learned the term Farum Azula from. So if we were to deduce what happened, this temple that fell from the sky, it looks like there may have been a cataclysmic event that caused the pieces to fly over Caelid and start landing in Limgrave. They land in Aeonia as well. So that's fairly interesting. But here, look at these. I want to kind of think about the ruins placement. So we can actually see Summon Water is right here. And between Summon Water, the Forsaken Ruins, and the Caelid Ruins, we have a roadway. This is this actually... This is not... I mean, it's part of the high road, but it doesn't have the same sigils on it. I think it might turn into high road. Can we see that at all? Wait, before we continue, I just want to see if the road changes tiles at all. Yeah, see, here we have... This is high road, and it looks like it has not Erd Tree worship, but maybe Elden Ring worship. You're getting the ring in like a Celtic knot, but it's not the Erd Tree. It's not showing tree here. However, the roadways are connected, and they change from this smoldering wall, most likely put up to block the rot, even though it doesn't look like it's working. So the road, this is high road. Then between the walls, there's the smoldering wall over here. It ends. But what I was thinking is Caelid and Limgrave, perhaps two different areas. This is ruled by Stormvale and perhaps the Stormhawk King. Then we have another smaller kingdom over here, the Weeping Peninsula, ruled by whoever rules Castle Morn. Now we have Caelid, ruled by maybe another type of kingdom. But there looks to be maybe shared religiosity from the Smoldering Church, because it's kind of in between these two areas. So I could imagine people from Summonwater Village traveling to the Smoldering Church, people from the Forsaken Ruins, and people from the Caelid Ruins traveling to the Smoldering Church, and, communicating and sharing in that way. There's also this Colosseum. We haven't been able to date the Colosseums yet. But I just thought that was an interesting idea, how these two regions might be connected based on similar religious practices. This church also doesn't have any Marika influence, which I find interesting. This is where we had a very heavy St. Trina population. Calum, I think some of the Discord said that this means, like, of the sky or something. Like, maybe it's Latin for of the sky, which gives, like, Sun Realm. We also, from this shack, we had the Banished Knights. And then we can very clearly see these titanous bodies with roots growing through them. This should immediately evoke Erd Tree Burial for us. Seeing these bodies with roots going through them, it gives me the idea that, we've talked about the artificiality of the Lands Between, but that this great tree root system is so pervasive, and it feeds on all type of life. And speaking of all type of life, when we think of our poisonous, our poison and our rot, like, this looks like, Caelid has absolutely been decimated. Life can't go on here, but life is going on. It just looks different. It's not very habitable for the people who lived here, human beings, but that doesn't make life... life isn't over. There's giant crows. Oh, and there's an item there I gotta pick up. There's giant dogs, and there's this fungal growth. So even though these trees are dying, they're being reborn into, like, a fungus. Let's look this way. We have, I think, a dungeon to go over there. We have one of our castles to go over here, and we could see very similar structure between these two. So same culture built these, and we're thinking that's Sunrealm based on their look. What else do we have? Scarlet Swamp. More ruins. I think those are waypoint ruins. Oh, they're really popping in and out. And a waypoint as in like a military waypoint. It follows the roadway. Where does the roadway lead us? To another church. Then down all the way we have fortifications of a tower leading to a castle. Here is the massive swamp. This swamp, actually, here we go. We have a desolated town in the swamp. This is most likely where Malenia and Radon really fought. And it blooms into... It looks like a spiral. It's very hard to see with this low poly, so when we get close. Further away, we could see gates to a town. Actually, gates way here, 2 gates. Lookout tower. Those look like our Blackstone civilization. Another church. Another town. Ooh, and an Iron Virgin. Let's see what she's doing. And then we have... Yeah, this guy, you can see roots coming out of his face. Another castle, and our Divine Tower. So a lot of interesting stuff for us to go through. And we are going to go east first. But before we do, let us talk to our finger reader.
You, please, I can read them. Your fingers, please, your fingers. Oh, bless you. Are you one for festivals or flowers? To the south, a grand festival to make the stars turn. To the east, the hardened bud of a flower to be. But dare you enter into the heart of the scarlet rot?
Okay, wow, all right. So, more confirmation, this knowledge. So, you know, our finger readers, they're looking into a future of some sport. And it sounds like she hasn't had any fingers to read in quite some time. She tells us about the festival. We've learned about, you know, that is the way. Oh, these are actually new types of buds. We haven't seen them this way. Anyway, the festival of us going, we're going to try and kill Radon to get the stars turn. He is the Star Scourge. He's holding back the fates of Karya and our mistress, Ronnie, and we got to kill him. However, what side is he on? And then we have the hardened bud of a flower yet to be, the heart of the scarlet rot. And coming through here, this is very interesting. Look at we're seeing the closer we get to this bud, and we're going to go over to right cards of Dr. Virgin, the more these red flowers are popping up. So these are these red buds supposedly turning into flowers. And that's interesting about when we look at, again, this is very important. Where is our spells? Incantations of the servants of Rot, so people who are serving Rot. And we know that from the Blue Dancer legend that to seal away a god that was Rot itself. So servants of a god that is Rot itself, so servants to this god. Those who dwell within poison know Rot all too well, know this god all too well. The death that begets life, the death that becomes life, that comes to all equally. That is to say, is the cycle of rebirth put into practice. So this area is being reborn again, and it's being reborn into these flowers. These blooming, or these buds, they're supposed to bloom into flowers, yet they haven't. I gotta pick up that item before we continue. So what is it that these flowers are supposed to become, and why haven't they? What do they need to finish that process? Hey, buddy. Uh-oh. Now you missed. Whatever. We hit you twice with that. So what is it that they miss? And Is it bad? You know, our blue dancer culture, not a fan of it. And they're not... Oh, Golden Rune 9. We'll look at that in just a second. Actually, I think we already... We'll talk about that in just a second. When we look at our soap... Do I have any soap on the hotbar? I do. Filth covering the exterior eventually seeps inside, soiling one's very spirit. So, the issue here is that it soils the spirit into rot and decay, yet it does cause rebirth. But what type of rebirth does it cause? Probably a stagnant rebirth. When we think about the karmic cycle of rebirth, and how the goal is to break the cycle, for your soul to not be reborn again, to finally be complete, to learn all it needs to learn in all of its lives, so that it can reach nirvana or what have you. This cycle of rebirth put into practice would mean that it's never ending. Like, there's stagnancy for your spirit. Although it's changing, it may not be growing. And I think that's a really interesting and important distinction, that change doesn't mean growth, and it seems that every single one of these trees has an arteria leaf. And a mushroom, a toxic mushroom. Radigan? I have no idea. You can see a dragon. So that is something I find interesting in the concepts for the blue dancer culture. They want to flow like water, to stay clean, to keep their spirits clean, potentially so they could get out of this cycle, and move on to the next thing. So their spirit can move on, you know, down the river into the next thing. The proverbial primeval current, actually, if you will. Which, you know, when we start putting these concepts together, I think they start making sense when we think about them. Okay, Beast Blood. When we think about them in the terms that Elden Ring is trying to communicate with them to us, you know, primeval current, you know, the forbidden teachings of the Academy. What do they call it? It is... The primeval current is the forbidden tradition of Glintstone. Those who cleave to its teachings, the act of collecting sorcerers, fashioning the seeds of stars, another path to scientific inquiry. So, you know, trying to brute force this spiritual process through a scientific method, looking through the wisdom of stone, trying to peer into the future in some way to see, well, what's the next step going to be, rather than living in the moment and living in the present and experiencing them one after the other. When we tie this into prophecy, this might seem conflicting. Like, how can we do prophecy, and how can that be kind of like allowed? How can seeing into the future be allowed if reaching into the primeval current isn't? Our dancer in blue, when we look at our blue dancer, the dancer in blue represents a fairy who bestowed a flowing sword upon a blind swordsman. And when we think of blindness, we have to think of blind, like prophecy, our prophet's blindfold. And I don't think they are not compatible with each other because of how prophecy seems to work, insofar as it's not a clear picture of what the future exactly is. It comes in pieces and it needs to be interpreted. Although the future is influencing the past, it's influencing the past in a way that it's not giving complete direction, and it still allows for, you know, maybe we wouldn't argue that there's free will if the future is determined, but you're still making the choices for yourself, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. It still allows for growth, I guess you could say. Growth and change without it being stagnant. But rot is the stagnancy, and we're kind of maybe we're seeing that with these buds. Although, you know, they're not allowed to bloom. The flowers are not allowed to bloom. All right, now we can add that some like spiritual sizing and hypothesizing. What's going on here? Well, we've already seen some indication that the dogs and the crows are not servants to rot, but they're enemies to the Redmanes. The Redmanes are trying to clean this up. And now we have Rykard's Abductor Virgin placed between these corpses. One is on top of the tree, telling us that, yes, Rykard's Abductor Virgin did that. Rykard and Radahn are in alliance with each other. Rykard and Ranni are in alliance in each other. Ranni and Rykard are both attempting to protect Rennala at Raya Lucaria. So now I think it's firm. The 3 Carian children were in alliance during the Shattering. Ranni dies in the Night of the Black Knives. Does Rykard and Radahn know that she was behind the Night of Black Knives? Now, we've talked about Night of Black Knives occur. The Golden Lineage is decimated because our demigods, who is the first demigods, so the Elden Lord Godfrey and his offspring, the Golden Lineage. Now the Golden Lineage is just dregs. What do they call it in our sacred sword that we got at the very beginning? After falling from grace, the dregs of the Golden Lineage sought power and purpose in the past. They're trying to evoke the images of Godfrey and Sarash, the aged counselor who guides the Golden Lineage, with their gilded shields and all that thing. The Carians are, it looks like the kids are the children of Radagon and Rennala may have been, even Radahn and Rykard may have been in the know about the Night of Black Knives and how the world is today, and they have something to gain. So it's very interesting that we find Rykard's Abductor Virgin out here fighting against the enemies of Radahn and his Red Mains. We've also found... it was turned off. There was snakes on the inside. And who is this evoking? We might talk about it more when we find something to look at. Also, that we find... I'm blanking on what I wanted to say. So I'll just stop it there. I don't remember what I was talking about, so we're going to continue. The kids are working together. We find it here. Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say. Hey, what about this guy? What's this ghost have? Sublime, I tell you. The very first flower of Aeonia bloomed on this very spot. Malenia, may you blossom into a goddess. Ooh. Okay, now we're getting some more Malenia lore. Oh, that's what I remembered. Malenia, that jogged my memory. We found in this cave right over here, in the Stillwater Cave, we found arrows, serpent arrows, arrow carved resembling a flying snake. Loyal minions to the form of serpent. Their fangs are dabbed with deadly poison. When we were in Volcano Manor, we saw winged serpents in Volcano Manor from a distance with our binoculars. So a winged serpent would be a flying serpent. The formless serpents would be, I guess, the assassins for Rykard, and they were following Malenia's army. Now it makes sense why Rykard's Abductor Virgins are here, because Rykard is aligned with Radahn and not aligned with Malenia, therefore also not aligned with Miquella, which makes it interesting when we come back to the lilies. Now it makes me think, when we think Saint Trina, it's like Saint Trina is in opposition to Miquella. We have a war between these two lilies, because although we found Miquella lilies all throughout, like the faith of the Halig tree, all throughout Caria, Ranni is the one with the Trina lily. And Ranni puts Kali to sleep. And Ranni talks about Rennala's slumber, and these runes that are on this silver sword are also on the spirit calling bell. So we're seeing, I think, a war, like this ideological war between these two sets of lilies. And Malenia is on one particular side of the lilies. So lonely. By the way, praise the message. Sure. I'm going to leave a message. Let's see. Visions of God. So let's look at this dialogue again. Sublime, I tell you. So, follower of rot right here. The very first flower of Aeonia bloomed on this spot. So, this is the first flower. That's the flower, and it bloomed. Malenia, may you blossom into a goddess. So, that must be from the trailer, the story trailer, where Malenia is fighting Radahn, and she blooms into this flower. He wants her to bloom into a goddess. Well, she is a demigod, and her twin brother... Do we know they're twins? Well, we know her brother... We'll just use some of our prophecy, because I don't know if we have the relationship. We know that Mikola is an Empyrean, and Ronnie's an Empyrean. We don't know if Malenia is an Empyrean, but Empyreans are the highest heavens. Their mother is a god, but she's a god because she has the Elden Ring. So perhaps this idea of blossoming into a god is she will be a god different than her mother because she won't need the Elden Ring to become a god. And this guy looks like a servant of Rot. And we know Rot is a god itself. And from Winged Sword Insignia, the wings symbolize Malenia and her undefeated prowess, though she may never know relief from the accursed rot she was born into. Her blade was forever beautiful and relentless. So she was born with accursed rot. And from our Blue Dancer, the dancer in blue represents a fairy who enledges bestowed a flowing sword upon a blind swordsman. Blade in hand, the swordsman sealed away an ancient god, a god that was rot itself. So Malenia is born with accursed rot, and rot is a god itself, and rot is rebirth put into practice. So it sounds like possibly this god of rot may have been reborn into Malenia. So she might be harboring a god inside of her. Very similarly to the fell god of fire. Released a ball of raging fire said to be inhabited by a fell god. Arganthony, the chief guardian of the flame, had kept this incantation a well-kept secret until it was stolen by Dawn. The fell god still lurks within the fire giants. So like the fell god lurks within the fire giants, the god of rot is inside Malenia, and her blossoming in this first blossom, maybe if she blossoms again, she will become a goddess. A true goddess. Is that what he says? May blossom into a goddess. So they want her to turn into a goddess. And I think we have butterfly with withered scarlet wings found in the swamp of Aeonia. According to myth, these butterflies were once the wings of the goddess of rot herself. Now, this is actually really interesting when we think about prophecy, because this is according to myth, okay? That's according to myth. This is in legend. If we think about myths and legends from the past, perhaps being prophetic visions of the future, okay, just because it's a legend, the Blue Dancer legend occurs. This culture has it. The dancers in blue, these people, the nomadic warriors who, just as still waters turn foul, stagnation leads to decay, warriors must remain ever drifting, their fabric symbolizing brisk waters, as fluid and flowing as the sword in the hand of its wearers. Just because this is one of their legends, where did the legend come from? Did it come from an event that preceded the legend? Or did it come from a prophetic vision from the future, a thing yet to be? So this is what's interesting about this guy saying, perhaps Malenia, one day you'll be a goddess. We look at our Aeonian butterflies. According to myth, well, where does the myth develop and how does it develop? These butterflies were once, okay, so in myth they were once the wings of a goddess of rot herself. Does that mean there is a goddess of rot in the past, or a goddess of rot to be? Okay? It could be telling us that, in the future, Malenia will become the goddess of rot. And because she becomes the goddess of rot, now we have these myths and legends talking about her becoming the goddess of rot. It also makes us think the blind swordsman sealed away a god of rot, that god or sealed away the rot, and that god was rot itself. Is that legend talking about Malenia? Is this god, this rot god in legend, actually sealed in Malenia in the future? So this is part of this causal prophecy things. Very interesting stuff, and we're seeing more of it here. It says that it blooms in the scarlet Aeonia, but we found these butterflies. Most of these butterflies, I think the ones that we once picked up, we found them down here beneath Liurnia, which is also very interesting because that would indicate that the Carians know about these legends, perhaps. We also found the Blue Dancer set right here with this Isolation Merchant who had the 3 sacrificial twigs tying us to Night Rain. The Dancer in Blue found in High Road Cave, and more of that stuff, the flowing rivers, the Schiefer River and the Ainsel River, Schiefer being a changeling fairy, Ainsel meaning, I think, myself. So the lands between 2 rivers, the lands between the fairy and myself, the fairy tale and me. Very interesting stuff that's going on here, and what types of things the Carians know, and maybe why the Carians would be at war with Malenia and Mikola. It could be 2 competing gods of 2 competing prophecies. Eventually, those things would converge, and we'll see how that happens. Especially since we have our 2 Empyreans, Mikola and Ranni, and so far it looks like Mikola and Ranni are maybe not in agreement with each other. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna change this message. Oh, I'm gonna point it. Check your message. Let's delete it. I want to make a message pointing people to go that way. So how do I do that? All right. So if someone comes to this guy, they'll see the mimic pointing them this way. And this is gonna be a fun dungeon, I think. This is also gonna be an important one because it's gonna give me an item that we desperately need. We didn't really talk about what's going on in the swamp down there, but it looks like Malenia blooming into a flower. The first flower really screwed up this place. And down beneath us, we get some of our watchers. Let's get off of a torrent just in case. And then Glintstone. Ooh, this is interesting. And a Graven Mass. Which faces are on there? That looks like Lazuli and Conspectus. Let me check. Let's check our mask. That is headband and crown. Lazuli, yep. And Olivianus, which Sorcerer Lusat, and a Study of Meteors. And that is the town of... Who likes to study meteors? Where are they? Town of Sorcery. And I don't know if we have confirmation, but Celia is in Caelid. Yeah, I think we had information about Celia, I think. It's interesting that they're guarding this glintstone here. So far away, too. And there is our well. Oop. There's our well. That well leads us to the Colosseum, but we will do that probably after we finish the rest of Caelid. Awesome hidden cave. And this is I think it's the Forgotten Cave? The Abandoned Cave. Ooh. Oh boy, it's really scarlety in here. Let me... Magic and intelligence. I think we should do fire. So that's what we've been playing around with. And do I have anything that boosts... What is our... Is it... It's immunity that we need to boost. Does any of the armor boost immunity? Oh, interesting that the Banished Knight armor boosts immunity. What else boosts immunity? Vulgar Militia. Blue Cloth, obviously. How much? Okay, we're gonna go blue cloth for higher immunity. Yeah. Oh, the scarabs have a lot of immunity. I don't really want to wear. I guess maybe if I wear the ancestral followers have good immunity. That's interesting too. That makes sense. We're gonna go full blue dancer. And I'm gonna need Flame Cleanse Me and our soap. Okay. Oh no, this is like really slow. Oh, the soap doesn't do it. It's gonna just be cleanse me. Oh no. Oh, I should have cast Blessing's Boon. And just like our last, here we got Aeonian butterflies, so this should be an indicator of Malenia. Just like our last, does the soap clean it when I'm out of it? No, soap does not clean it while out of it. Just like our last, poison dungeon, so far this is our third. Our first was the Tombsword Cave, and we found our Viridian Amber Medallion from there, telling us, maybe I could boost immunity this way. Just like we found, our Tombsword Cave told us that the Miranda flowers are tied to poison, specifically, and the amber of the Erd tree can do that. We've also been seeing that with our faded Erd leaf flowers, how the Erd tree is very malleable. But the formless serpents found in Stillwater Cave, now we're getting the Rykard's abductor virgins are here, directly indicating that there was conflict between Rykard and the rest of Malenia's army, more directly. And this actually gives us a really good look at the abductor virgin. Lots of serpents. And the baby. And the woman, it's hard to see from this angle, but she does have, she's weeping tears and her eyes are closed. Oh, what's on her? I want to try and get up on top, see better. Yeah, we want to learn who that baby is. And so far, since she's weeping, since she's crying, it's hard to see on the statue, but they are crying. We think Marika as the abductor virgin. Or we could think Renala actually could be abductor virgin as well. She also has tears because of the connection to the larval tears. Okay, let's try and get through this. Oh, geez. Oh, no. My Great Rune. Oh, boy. That's bad. This is a tough... Ooh, this is tough. That's sad. That's sad. You know, when you do this on New Game, you just get slowed down. Oh, wait. Don't I have... Oh, we have Quick Step. That's the secret. As still waters go foul. I'm going to save my popping the rune arc until we get to the boss. This is the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Yeah, if you don't know, Quick Step is a way to cheat the, it's a way to cheat the stopping. Okay, can I get through? Woo! Dragon Wound Grease. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Why I guess... Dragon Wound Grease because... Well, we saw one dead dragon right here. I think this is going to tell us more indication that this is our first... When dragons are born from their ancient kin, they lost their stone scales, which can now be used to cause them mortal harm. Solidified grease made from gravel stone mixture. So they're taking the gravel stone, which is the stone scales of their ancient kin, the ancient dragons, who attacked the capital, and then a cult formed around them. By mixing them with grease, with root resin most likely, we can hurt dragons because they lost their stone scales. So the stone scales of the dragons, of the ancient dragons, hurt the modern dragons. Do they call them modern dragons? Born from their ancient kin. Dragons were born from their ancient kin, so the ancient kin had to procreate to create more these more modern dragons. Interesting that it's found here. Okay, are we gonna get out of here before the explosion? Woo. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh well. It is what it is, and it do what it do. A shame I lost that great room, but thank God I have 9. More of our abductor versions. Yeah, a lot in here. A lot. So this should be telling everybody. Rykard and Radon working together to fight Malenia. These brothers are an alliance. He sent a lot of abductor versions here to fight Malenia. Oh. Oh, there we go, the Serpent bow, alright. Okay, excellent. Let's look at the Serpent bow. Let me equip that so we can look at it. So yeah, really tying them together, the serpents, the serpent arrows that we found all the way back in Aeonia, like our second episode of at Stillwater Cave, definitely tied to Rykard, definitely associated. Malformed bow in the shape of a pair of poisonous snakes. Imbues arrows with poison through pagan magic, revealing its true worth when used with poison-infused arrows. Used by assassins known as the Formless Serpent. So, this is interesting. This is our second note of paganism in the Lands Between. Our first mention of paganism is from the Weeping Peninsula, from Tombs Ward. Just Tombs Ward. I think it's just called Tombs Ward. Where is it? Our Winged Scythe. Let's just equip that so we can look at it. Which has a maiden. Oh, wait, let me throw down a glowstone so we can see this better. So we have like a woman on either side with angel wings, and then bearded men all the way around. This we were thinking death birds. Sacred Scythe resembling a pair of white wings deals holy damage. According to pagan belief, white-winged maidens are said to be death's gentle envoys, and we're thinking of that as being the death birds. You know, we look at our grave scythe. Great scythe comprised of a large blade affixed with a crooked stick, weapon wielded by the aged gravekeepers who tend the forgotten graveyards throughout the Lands Between. This weapon is said to have served as a charm against evil spirits of times old. You put that on and it increases our defense against Deathblight buildup. These guys also do spells that they cast. These are those who live in death who cast our intelligence and faith of ancient death rancor and rancor call. The idea that these are tied to faith and intelligence shows us that not only do they have faith in their religious practices, but there is a knowledge about these practices. Like, they are manipulating spirits through their intelligence as well, and it's tied to the cinders of the ancient death hex raked from the fires of ghost flame by death birds. So we have this death bird part of the Sun Realm era religion, and let's put our One Blade Staff back on. Now we have the Serpentine religion. What do we have from the arrows again? loyal minions of the formless serpents. Their fangs, so the flying serpent, those are the loyal minions. Then we have used by assassins known as the formless serpents. So the serpents are the assassins, and there's minions of the assassins. What's interesting is that the snakes are poisonous, and Malenia is rot. And those who dwell within poison know all too well the death that begets life. That is a cycle of rebirth put into practice. So the serpent is poison, and rot is a god. So now they're separate. So now the poison is tied to the serpent, and the poisonous serpent is in opposition to the rot, this woman harboring potentially a rot god. And it's tied to this pagan magic. So when we think pagan, now we have people who are worshipping serpents and worshipping birds, death birds. So when we think now the Sun Realm is getting a little bit bigger because we have the Stormhawks and the Stormhawk King. We already gave up the Stormhawk King to Nefeli, but we have Dean the Stormhawk, who had lifelong service to the old King of Stormvale long ago, when the true storm raged. So very interesting. These religions, now we're kind of monotheistic with the Erd Tree. Belief in the Erd Tree and belief in Queen Marika, its queen. So very interesting. We're getting how old is this pagan religion? And now since we're tying it to this pagan religion, Rykard at the Volcano Manor with all the flying serpents, he's now a pagan? Rykard's a pagan? Is he believing in multiple gods? Now, he committed the grave sin of blasphemy, and that's probably where that blasphemy is coming from. It's probably coming from his paganism. So that's really interesting. Ouch. Hey, take that. I think soap cleans poison. Yeah, soap cleans poison, doesn't clean rot, because maybe it's going into a very soul. Oh, but he's carrying serpent arrows. Ooh. So that's interesting. Either he's carrying serpent arrows because he is... Oh, this guy's got fungused. Either because they shot him and he picked them up or something like that, or he's one of the assassins following Malenia.
Yeah.
Although, this guy we were thinking he is a worshiper of the Clean Rot Knights in Malenia, perhaps it's a little more complicated. Perhaps he is a worshiper. I'm actually going to pop a rune arc now. Perhaps he's actually working for Rykard, which wouldn't be shocking for us to see, because if we remember Kenneth Heights fort, that is where we found someone who was just plumb mad with blood, and he had the Ash of War, Bloody Slash. Even though he was a Knight of Godric, he had an oath with the Lord of Blood. And one of the guys working for the Lord of Blood, Vare, told us to kill Godric and get his Great Rune. So, very interesting how Rykard, he seems to have his fingers in everyone's pie, and he has them there for his family, it would seem. But now he's a pagan, and Miranda flowers can bloom in Scarlet Rot as well. Let's see how well our... Oh, that does a lot of damage. Soap should clean that, right? No, soap, I need flame cleanse me. Oh, jeez. I am gonna get Scarlet Rotted. Holy moly. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, I gotta deal with these guys first. Okay, now we're good. Thank goodness for the fire monks. Yeah, the fire monks seem to be... Whose side are they on? Well, you can have allies with people, you know. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Goodness gracious. Thank goodness for the Sword of Night and Flame. Yeah, a lot of Aeonian flowers in here. So what was I saying? Yeah, just I'm finding this interest this interest in Rykard such an interesting character, and we're learning so much about him based on who he's associating with. So the Carians are moon worshippers, but now he's becoming a pagan who's allied with his family of the moon, and we could see in here that there's like strips of meat inside. So the snakes that are inside of the abductor virgins may actually be alive and eating this flesh. This is a great dungeon for inspecting the abductor virgins. Yeah, so him being a pagan really is interesting. Oh, Venomous Fang. Wait, why can't I summon? That's weird. One of the weapons designed for gladiatorial combat used by duelists who were exiled from the Colosseum. The black vein protruding from the bronze snake is coated in Desleaf poison. So, in the Colosseum, is there pagan worship going on in the Colosseum? You know, the lion seemed like it was used in the Colosseum. We don't have the lion associated with any gods currently, but we do have now snakes associated, and I think we talked about previously when we fought our first gladiator that he had snakes on his helmet. So it looks like they're, you know, I'm fighting maybe for my god, my pagan serpent god. That could be something that's going on there. All right, we got to know who's going to be in here. It's going to be some of Malenia's. Yeah, there you are, Latenna. Away with you. Oh, hey, don't hurt my girl. Don't hurt me. How much does that do? Oh my goodness. Not even a shot. Okay, let's see. A sickle that shoots. Ooh, golden rings of light. Hey, you weren't even looking at me. Man, not a problem at all. Thank you, Lieutenant. And a gold scarab. So, Malenia's Clean Rot Knights having a golden scarab, which we're going to use, I think, probably the rest of the playthrough, because talisman, facsimile of a scarab, the carrier of treasure of precious things, the golden scarab increases the amount of runes obtained. And we're going to want that because I want to level up more. And always getting more runes is a good thing. So we're going to get out of this dungeon. And then I want to tell you, you know, we'll open this up in the next episode. In the next episode of the Mimic Commentary, we're going to talk about the Golden Scarab. We're going to talk about Young and the Golden Scarab. So this was what a phenomenal episode. All right, let me get somewhere safe, and then we'll say, abductor virgin, and then we'll say goodbye. Maybe I can get them to fight. No. Alright. On the next episode of the Mimic Commentary, we shall head west. But we're going to head west that-a-way. Because we're going to want to go up and around to that dungeon. Then we'll go that way. And then we'll go that way. And Caelid's moving smoothly, everybody. Alright. Thank you all for watching. If you're a member, thank you for being a member. If you're watching this part as the live release, thank you for watching anyway. Consider becoming a member. You know the drill. Let's do the thing.